Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We head to the movies this hour. Cary Grant and Mrs. Cary Grant, Betsy Drake, star in an episode of the Screen-Directors-Playhouse, going back to June 9th, 1950. In the movie that Cary Grant starred in, Mr-Blandings-Builds-His-Dream house.
RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television, proudly presents...
Screen-Directors-Playhouse, stars Cary Grant, Betsy Drake, production Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, director H.C. Potter.
Hollywood Screen Directors present transcribed A Tale of Architects and Apoplexy, the motion picture comedy Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, starring Cary Grant in his original role of Jim and Betsy Drake as Muriel.
Man was once a carefree fellow who swung happily through the jungle trees, every man his own Tarzan. But then he yearned to get out of the trees and into caves. Then he yearned to get out of the cave and into a house. He's still yearning.
This is the story of Jim Blandings, New York apartment dweller who yearned to get out of his cave. Tall, well-groomed, moderately successful advertising executive in charge of the Wham Ham account.
Thank you. He also has 2 fine daughters and 1 lovely, intelligent wife named Muriel.
I'm Muriel. Every morning in our apartment we fought for firsts, with the bathroom the big bonanza. Started first thing in the morning. I'd open one eye, and there would be Jim nuzzling the furniture like a strange dog. Looking for something, dear?
Yeah, my socks.
Why don't you look in your sock drawer?
That's where I found my underwear.
Try your underwear drawer.
I am in my underwear drawer.
Well, what do you find?
Your underwear.
Then the great American bathroom derby. And there goes Jim Blandings, an odds-on favorite. He's at the door, he opens it.
Oh!
Sorry.
Father, just one morning I wish you'd knock.
In this apartment, there isn't room enough to knock.
That was Sandra, age 10. Joan has a different screen.
Father, you just might wear a dressing gown.
I can't find my dressing gown.
Conditions being what they were in our apartment, Jim would shave while I brushed my teeth.
Oh!
Did you cut yourself?
I cut myself every morning. I kind of look forward to it.
Well, Bill Cole uses an electric razor, and Bill Cole's beard...
I am not interested in discussing the grain and texture of Bill Cole's hair follicles before I have my orange juice.
And so forth. Until one morning, Jim saw an ad in the paper, and desperation did the rest.
Listen to this, Muriel. Forced to sell. Farm dwelling. Original beams. Oak Grove. Trout stream. Meadows. Superb view. Will sacrifice.
So,
spend $6,000-$7,000, we could have a home of our own. A dream house.
Oh, Jim, do you really think we could?
It doesn't cost anything to look.
Well, there she stands, folks. Finest old house in Connecticut.
And what do you think, Muriel?
My, it's just charming.
Dear, we're just looking.
First year she was here, General Gates stopped right there to water his horses.
Old General Gates, eh? Civil War.
Revolutionary War.
That General Gates.
You can get that place for a steal.
Tell me, Smith, what are you hoping to get for that broken-down old relic?
Well, we're asking $10,000.
$10,000?
He's asking. Now, how much will you take?
$10,000.
Oh, that's more like it. We'll take it. Good morning. Good morning, Gussie. Good morning, children.
Blanding. Good morning, Father.
Morning, Muriel.
I'll go get your wham and egg now, Mr. Blanding.
Oh. Well, girls, did your mother tell you about our new home?
Yes.
Well?
I was just thinking, Jim. $10,000 was more than you wanted to pay for a place.
It was a steal, Muriel. It was larceny.
Shouldn't we have seen a lawyer? Bill Cole would have...
For once in my life, I would like to make a decision without Bill Cole.
Well, he's your lawyer.
Only because he was your old college chum. Now, I don't want Bill Cole puttering with this. That's final. No Bill Cole. Well, there's our house, Bill.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yes, in a worm-eaten kind of way. Just what do you see in it?
Birds.
What?
We've got birds.
On our roof, sparrows. There's one landing on the shingles now.
What's that?
Just a few shingles. It's a nice old house, Bill. It just needs someone to love it, that's all.
Well, it's a good thing there are two of you, one to love it and one to hold it up. Have you had an engineer check the roof and foundation?
Engineer? This is a house, not a train.
I just saw it move.
Now, see here. It so happens that General Gates stopped at this very house to water his horses.
It's fine for thirsty horses. But you're getting rooked.
Oh, we are we?
Jim, you don't think we've made a mistake?
Now, wait a minute. Now, let me just explain one thing, that's all. I've gone out and found what I'm not ashamed to call my dream house. It's like a beautiful painting. You buy it with your heart, not with your head, because it's beautiful and you love it. And when I sign those final papers Saturday, I can look the world in the face and say it's mine. My house, my home, my 50 acres.
Our house, our home, our 50 acres.
Well, all right. But let me have Joe Apollonio look the house over for you.
No.
Well, he's the man who advised the government not to raise the Normandy.
No.
Well, they didn't listen to him and wasted $5 million.
Bill, you have my word. If I were raising the Normandy, I wouldn't make a move without Joe Apollonio.
Okay, Jim. Muriel, kiss goodbye for an old college chum, and I'll be on my way.
Well, I'm going to look around inside again.
How's the flooring on that porch?
Sound as $1.
Jim!
I presume you were referring to Confederate dollars?
Don't just stand there. Get me out of this hole.
Bill, I guess you'd better get in touch with Mr. Apollonio.
Well, Mr. Apollonio, what do you think of that good old house?
We want your honest opinion.
Tear it down.
Tear it down?
Tear it down.
We certainly will not tear it down.
Tear it down.
Well, we'll get our own expert. Well, Mr. Sawyer, you know old houses. What's your opinion?
Tear it down.
You're a man of imagination, Jonas. What do you suggest?
Get yourself an architect and build a new house.
Get an architect?
Build a new house.
We certainly will not get an architect.
Build a new house, indeed.
The idea.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, we got ourselves an architect. We had the old house torn down and began to discuss plans for a brand new house.
And lots of closet space, Mr. Sims. Lots of closet space.
If there's one thing this family needs, it's closet space.
Closet space.
And 4 big, roomy, airy bedrooms.
4 bedrooms?
And each bedroom has to have at least 1 bathroom.
But that would be 4 bathrooms.
And a great big kitchen, and a great big breakfast room, and a great big playroom.
Nothing tremendous, 30 by 40 feet or so.
And a paneled library, and a hobby room. And
Mrs. Blandings, with your limited budget, couldn't you do with 1 less bathroom?
Absolutely not.
It'll save $1,300.
I refuse to endanger the health of my children in a house that has less than 4 bathrooms.
Muriel, for $1,300, they can live in a house with 3 bathrooms and rough it. Now, Mr. Sims, we'd like a terrace off the study and a 3-car garage and, of course, a bar.
Of course. What else?
Well, just one thing. Keep the cost down to $10,000.
Yeah?
Well, Muriel, your husband has done it again.
What's wrong, Bill?
What did I do?
Did that idiot Sims let you tear down your house without consulting me on the legality involved?
What legality?
Wasn't anyone aware of the mortgage?
What mortgage?
Miss Hackett's mortgage.
What about Miss Hackett's mortgage?
Jim, what did you do?
I don't know. He won't tell me.
You merely tore down a house on which Hackett held a $6,000 mortgage, which now becomes fully payable upon demand, and Mr. Hackett does so demand.
Oh, no.
Well, we get it.
Well, I suppose I could turn in my insurance policies.
No, Jim. No, not yet. No, rather than see you do that, I'll be glad to sign a note for the amount.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, forget it. Well, I kiss goodbye for an old college chum, Muriel, old chum.
Goodbye, Bill.
Hey.
See you in bankruptcy court, hey?
What a wonderful friend.
What's with this kissing all of a sudden? Lately, every time he leaves this apartment, he shakes hands with me and kisses you.
Would you prefer it the other way around?
I don't like it, that's all.
Oh, now, darling, it isn't, Bill. It's a house you're upset about.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That and business. I'm getting worried about the deadline on that new slogan for Wham.
It isn't too late to change our minds about the house, Jim.
Yo-Yo, I'm going to see this thing through. So far, our $10,000 house has cost us $24,698.45. But? We've got the prettiest vacant lot in the state of Connecticut.
You are listening to the Screen Directors Playhouse production of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, starring Betsy Drake and Cary Grant, and presented by RCA Victor.
June 9th, 1950, Screen Directors Playhouse on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House was dramatized 3 times. It was dramatized on the Screen Directors Playhouse in July of 1949, and then in October of 1949, Lux Radio Theater did a 1-hour adaptation, and then Screen Directors Playhouse gave this second performance you're hearing now with Betsy Drake. Now, it would be 6 months later that the spin-off Mr. and Mrs. Blandings would appear as a weekly comedy series on NBC, January 21st, 1951. And it was sponsored by Trans World Airlines. Now, more of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, an episode of the Screen Directors Playhouse from June 9th, 1950.
Now, back to the Screen Directors Playhouse production of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, starring Cary Grant in his original role of Jim and Betsy Drake as Muriel.
They cleared the ground for the house. They began digging. They struck solid rock. They had to blast it.
Blast it.
$27,000, and the deadline for the new slogan for Wham was getting nearer. Jim was in the throes of creation.
When you want a snack of ham, why not take a whack at Wham?
Horrible.
Horrible, right.
The highly touted trout stream dried up, and that meant we had a well to dig, and dig and dig and dig, at $4.50 a foot. When the hole was approximately $800 deep, Jim thought he ought to have a word with Mr. Tazander, digger of wells.
Mr. Tazander! Mr. Tazander!
Yeah? How's it coming? Oh, it's coming. No, I mean, Mr. Tazander! Yep.
How far down are you?
Oh, about 190 feet.
Isn't that pretty deep?
Yep.
Have you hit anything at all?
I hit some nice limestone yesterday.
Limestone?
Yep.
Swell. Nothing on a hot day like a nice cold glass of limestone. Oh, nothing. Just go right ahead. I'll just limp back to my office and rob the petty cash.
Wonderful to relate. We had our well at last. It was a lovely thing. 227 feet deep. And then suddenly we had two wells because a workman in the basement struck water 6 feet down.
Now, how do you explain that, Mr. DeSander? The men hit good water in my basement at 6 feet. And over there, just 25 yards away, you had to go down 227 feet to hit the same water.
Yep.
Well, how do you account for it?
Well, it seems to me, over here, the water's down around 6 feet. And over there, it's
down around 227 feet.
Yep.
Here's your coffee, Jim.
And here's your favorite breakfast dish.
Gussie.
Not wham again.
I love it. I hate it.
Gussie, I've been spending 8 hours a day with this stuff. I know all about its succulent goodness, its sugar-cured tenderness, its vitamin-drenched gazebus.
Oh, you don't have to sell me, Mr. Blanding. I like it.
Oh.
Beef and lamb don't rate with wham.
Night and day under the hide of me. Wham.
Dear, Bill's driving me out to the house again today.
What? Every time I turn around, he's driving you out to the house.
He's only being helpful.
I thought he was a lawyer. Why isn't he out suing somebody?
Bicker, bicker, bicker.
You eat your wham. Oh, Sandra, pass me the whammophone. I mean the telephone. Hello? Oh, good morning, Bill.
Give him my love.
Wait a minute. What? What? Oh, that's outrageous. Just what does the owner of this apartment mean I've got to move in 30 days?
Oh, fine.
I know my rights. I have no intention of moving in 30 days. No. No. Well, how can I move into a house without doors and windows? But this is not legal, and I want you to fight it. I'm not moving. Right. Yeah. 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 Right.
Well?
We're moving in 30 days.
In 30 days, we moved into our dream house. Our dream house. It had no doors, no windows, no lights, no carpeting, and no heat. We walked around in our overcoats, and I lost 4 pounds by shivering in the right places. Then, to give our home that lived-in look, the green-eyed monster showed up.
I merely asked you a question. Why have you kept Bill Cole's fraternity pin all these years?
Jim Blandings, I think you're jealous.
Well, if you were so crazy about him, why didn't you marry him? Why did you marry me?
I'm beginning to wonder. Maybe it was because of those big cow eyes of yours, or that ridiculous hole in your chin. Maybe I just happened to fall in love with you. Don't ask me why.
Oh, Muriel, I'm sorry. Sometimes I act like a schoolboy.
I know you're under pressure here and at the office, but this is no way to start the day, is it, Jim?
No, darling. But this is.
Now, hurry. You'll miss the train into town.
Just one more.
Oh, Jim.
All right. Deadline on wham today. Boss says get a slogan or get. Bye, dear. I may be home very late.
Well, don't worry about it, Jim. Bill's coming over to spend the evening.
Bill?
Hurry, dear. You'll be late.
Wham.
Wham, wham.
Oh, Mary is late. It's hopeless. Why don't you forget you're a good secretary and go home?
After only 14 hours? Besides, it's raining too hard. Oh. Danton and Bascom advertising. Oh, yes, Mr. Bascom. He's right here. For you, boss.
Thanks, Mary. Hello, Mr. Bascom. How are you? Yes, miserable night. Yes. Well, we'll get that slogan out by noon tomorrow if I have to stay here all night. Yes. Yeah. Bye, Mr. Bascom. Bye, Mr. Bascom.
Well, that means we'll just have to dream up something now, good or bad.
I rather got the impression that it better be good. I got one.
This? Go ahead.
Compare the price. Compare the slice. Take our advice. Buy Wham.
June 9th, 1950, Screen Directors Playhouse, Mr. Blanding Builds His Dream House on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now the conclusion of the Screen Directors Playhouse production of Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. The movie version starred Cary Grant and Myrna Loy, and this version stars Mr. and Mrs. Cary Grant. Mrs. Grant, of course, Betsy Drake.
Well, if you'd buy better ham, you'd better buy Wham.
Boil petroleum. If you'd buy better oil, you'd better buy Boil.
I found those monopolies.
Here's one. East is east and west is west. Ham is ham, but Wham is best. Sorry.
Wait. I got a good one. Win with Wham. The ham that came from behind. Oh, no.
Right there.
Morning, Muriel. Sorry I couldn't get home last night.
You must be exhausted. How did it go?
Oh, fine.
Jim, Bill dropped in last night.
Oh, good for dear old Bill.
And, he had to stay all night when the bridge was closed.
Bridge?
Oh, Muriel! I can't seem to find Jim's other bedroom slipper. Oh, hello, Jim.
Good morning, Bill. What are you doing in my pajamas and dressing gown?
How would I look without them?
I just told you, Jim. Bill had to stay all night.
Oh, I slept like a rock.
How nice.
Good morning, folks. Sure hope it wasn't as bad here as it was in Lansdale last night.
Wait. Gussie wasn't here last night?
Lansdale.
Saw Sandra and Joan at the Williamses. They'll be coming for breakfast in a minute.
The children weren't here last night either?
Visiting the Williamses.
Williamses.
If you'll excuse me, I'll slip into something more comfortable.
Williamses.
Now, Jim, you're upset.
Williamses.
You've a lot of things on your mind.
There's only one thing on my mind. This house and how to get rid of it. Anybody who builds a house today is crazy. The minute you start, you're on the all-American sucker list. Everywhere you turn, they've got a hand in your pocket. If you take out their hands, they find more pockets. It's a conspiracy against every man and woman who want a home of their own. Against every boy and girl who were ever in love. Against every...
Excuse me, Mr. Blanding.
Well, what do you want, Mr. DeSander? We've got our well.
There's a matter of $12.86.
No. $12.86. Why be a piker, Mr. DeSander? Here, take everything I've got. Take my watch, take my keys, my pocket money, my driver's license, my wallet. Take it all.
But, Mr. Blandings, you don't understand. This $12.86. You don't owe me. I owe you.
Huh?
I found the overcharge on the well. Almost 3 feet. Here's the money.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zander.
Well, guess I better be getting along. Sure got a pretty place here. Take good care of it.
Oh, Mr. Zander, could you give me a lift into Lansdale?
Yeah?
Good. And, Jim, if you want to count the silverware, I'll wait.
Be patient with me, Bill. I'll grow up.
What happened to him?
$12.86.
Oh. Well, see you around. Ready, Mr. Zander?
Yeah.
What a wonderful man, that Zander.
Come and get it, folks. Orange juice, scrambled eggs, and you know what? If you ain't eating wham, you ain't eating ham.
Wait. What did she say?
If you ain't eating wham,
You ain't eating ham. Muriel, give Gussie a $10 raise because that's it. That's our slogan.
Jim.
We're in.
Oh, and Jim, you do love our house, don't you?
Muriel, if I had it to do all over again, if I had to go through all that grief and heartache and bankruptcy and worry again, if I had to mortgage my future and risk my job and my wife and my peace of mind just to wind up with a $48,000 house,
Yes?
I guess I'd do it.
This is Jimmy Wallington speaking. You have just heard the last act of Mr. Blandings-Builds-his-dream house. Now, here again are Betsy Drake and Cary-Grant. Well, it was a great treat having Mr. and Mrs. Blandings played by Mr. and Mrs. Grant.
Ladies and gentlemen, Betsy and I have been presented with a grave responsibility.
It concerns directors.
A particular director. The fellow who created the Mr. Blandings picture.
Come on, Cary, stop beating around the bush.
Well, it's just that we only have a few words to describe and introduce a man who has done so much, so well, that...
that it takes a woman to sum it all up by saying, ladies and gentlemen, meet the director of Mr. Blandings, and of such other wonderful pictures as Mr. Lucky, Shop-Worn Angel, and The Farmer's Daughter, Hank Potter.
Thank you, Betsy and Cary. I hope you've encouraged quite a few fearless souls to go out now and start building a dream house.
What, without a director?
Oh, in real life, Betsy, people don't need directors. Mr. Blandings was just make-believe.
Oh, no. You mean some of the things that happened in the picture never happened in real life?
Of course not.
Betsy.
Yes, Cary?
Oh, this boy is so innocent.
But he's such a wonderful director.
Now, let's teach him a lesson. Hank, come on out to our place for dinner.
Thank you.
And bring a saw.
And a hammer.
And some nails.
For dinner?
Mr. Potter, you're going to help build our dream house.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
And good night to you, Betsy Drake, Cary-Grant, and H.C. Potter. Remember, next Friday, Frederick March and Ruth Roman in A Star is Born with screen director William Wellman, brought to you by RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television. Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House was presented through the courtesy of RKO Pictures, producers of the Technicolor production The White Tower, starring Glenn Ford and Valley. Cary-Grant will soon be seen as the star of the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer production Crisis. Betsy Drake will soon be seen in the title role of the United Artists production Ellen. H.C. Potter's next picture is the soon-to-be-released Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer production The Miniver Story. The Eric Hodgins novel Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House was adapted for radio by Milton Geiger from the screenplay by Panama and Frank. Portions of tonight's program are transcribed. You are invited to listen again next Friday when RCA Victor presents...
Screen Directors Playhouse, stars Frederick March, Ruth Roman, production A Star is Born, director William Wellman.
June 9th, 1950, the Screen Directors Playhouse on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater, we're going to take you back to another short-run series, The Police Reporter, going back to 1935. We have no specific dates on when these shows ran, but here's an episode entitled The Omelet That Cost a Man His Head.
Again, we bring you the police reporter with his store of odd happenings taken from the police records of the world. These stories are true and dramatized for your entertainment. You will now hear the voice of the police reporter bringing you another true murder mystery.
In Paris, 17 years ago, on a lovely spring morning, Roger Vaughan, a young man of no particular abode, is sprawled indolently on one of the benches that line the Bois de Boulogne. An old lady, in passing, tries to hold the youth in conversation.
It's a grand day, isn't it?
Yes, for some people, maybe.
Aren't you glad spring is here?
I've nothing to be glad about.
Oh, are you unhappy then?
Yes, I am.
Won't you tell me why? Perhaps I can help.
I'm hungry. I haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon, and I haven't slept in a bed for 4 nights.
Why, you poor boy.
I don't need sympathy. What I need is food or money to buy food.
Would you be offended if I took you to my home and gave you something to eat?
Where do you live?
Just across the street. I have rooms on the 4th floor of that building over there.
Well, perhaps I'm not showing the proper spirit. Maybe you'll find me surly and resentful. But I can't help it when the rest of the world is gay and happy while I'm like this. I'm grateful to you. But I deserve better than a bench to sleep on and scraps of food flung at me by strangers. But I suppose I should be grateful even for that. Yes, I suppose I should.
5 minutes later, in the old lady's apartment.
Sit here in the kitchen with me, and we can talk while I prepare your food.
Thank you. Do you live here? Alone?
Yes, I'm a widow. My husband died 12 years ago.
Then you must have some kind of an income.
Enough to keep me.
You're lucky.
Oh, I think so. That's why I try to help those who aren't so fortunate. Would an omelet and coffee be satisfactory?
Very. Now, you must have a lot of friends.
No, not one.
Aren't you lonely?
Not particularly. I have my books, my cat, and the whole of Paris to amuse me. After my husband died, I couldn't afford to keep up with my old friends, and I was too old to make new ones. So I packed all my treasures in that chest you're sitting on and moved in here. And here I am, contented.
So I've been sitting on a small fortune and didn't know it.
Oh, hardly that. The chest contains things of a sentimental value. Their value in money would be small.
Aren't you afraid someone might rob you?
Who would want the few paltry francs I have?
Someone as desperate as I am. Someone you might bring up here and feed just as you've brought me. Someone like me to whom a few francs is a fortune.
Oh, I'm not afraid.
But you should be.
Why did you lock that door?
Just making sure I won't be disturbed.
Disturbed?
Yes. I don't want anyone coming in here during the next half hour.
What are you thinking of, young man?
I'm sick of being poor. I'm going to rob you.
Oh, you couldn't do that.
Couldn't I? Watch me. Where's the key to this chest?
I won't tell you. I'll save you from being a thief in spite of yourself.
Where's the key to that chest?
I'll not tell you. Help! Help!
Such a trap!
I'm being robbed! Help!
Keep quiet, you fool!
Oh, put that penknife down! Put that knife down! Help! 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 Ah!
5 days later, the police broke into the old woman's rooms and found her body. The only clue to the identity of her assailant were a few bloody fingerprints. The fingerprints of a man unknown to the police and, consequently, almost impossible to trace. 2 years pass, and the murder of the unknown woman is still unsolved. Roger Voron is in prison awaiting deportation to l'Île de Ré, a vermin-infested penal colony which French criminals dread more than Devil's Island. We find Voron sitting with his cellmate, an old offender named Bébert.
What are you so gloomy about, Bébert?
In another 2 weeks, they'll have enough poor devils like us, and we'll be on our way, Voron. You for 10 years, and me for life.
L'Île de Ré can't be any worse than this prison. So why be gloomy about it?
Oh, can't it? I've been there, I know. There isn't a worse place on the face of the earth than that hole. I'll tell you what it'll be. All day long, every day you'll slave in a blazing sun, and at night they'll throw food at you that a Paris street mongrel wouldn't eat.
It'll be food anyway.
Then you'll sit around and talk about Paris until your heart's broken. Then you'll go to bed. But for an hour you won't sleep because of the heat and the insects. But even they can't keep your tired body awake any longer than that, and you'll drop off.
I've slept in prison before.
Yeah, then at sunrise they'll wake you up and throw more garbage at you. And it'll start all over again. And the only time the monotony is broken are the days when they tie you to a post and whip you. And you think it can't be worse than this? Ha! Don't make me laugh.
Well, it can't last forever.
It will for me. I'm going for life.
Why don't you commit suicide? I haven't the nerve. You're a brave man, aren't you? You can kill others, but you haven't the nerve to do it when it comes to yourself.
Well, at least I have the nerve to kill others, which is more than a petty burglar like you can say.
Oh, yeah? Well, I did kill someone once, but I was never caught for it.
Who was it?
An old woman. She took me to her house to feed me, and I killed her and robbed her.
And the police never found out who did it?
That was over 2 years ago, and I never was caught.
You expect me to believe a story like that, eh?
Well, it's true.
It's just the silly bragging of a small thief.
Oh, is it? Well, I can prove it. Her name was Messachier, and she had rooms on the 4th floor of a house just off the Bois de Boulogne.
Well, how was she dressed?
She had on a brown dress, and she was cooking some food for me. When I made up my mind to rob her, I told her my intention. She began to scream. That got me scared, and I grabbed a kitchen knife off the table and stabbed her. She died almost instantly.
You're not lying to me?
I'm not. I swear I'm not. But why is this so important to you?
I'm going to use it to save myself from going to L'Île de Ré.
You're going to tell on me and hope for mercy?
No. I'm going to confess to it and go to the guillotine.
You'd rather die than go to the penal colony?
Yeah, much rather. Better an actual death than a living one.
While it seems hard to believe that a man would confess to a murder which would surely cost him his life, that is exactly what Bébert did. We find him next in the office of the warden, where he is being questioned.
So, Bébert, she resisted your attempts to rob her, and you killed the old woman.
Yes, sir.
What was she preparing for your meal?
Well, some meat and potatoes.
And when she screamed, you stabbed her with a kitchen knife?
Yes, sir.
It's a very good story, Bébert.
It's a true story, sir.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
It's strange that the Paris police know nothing about it.
You mean that there was never a murder committed?
That's just what I mean, Bébert.
Well, he lied to me then. That petty stealing rat.
Who?
Lied. That Roger Voron. He let me think that if I told you this story, I could cheat L'Île de Ré. Now I've got to go away.
Quiet, Bébert. Hello? Hello? Bring me Roger Voron to the prison and governor's office immediately.
You're having him brought up here, eh?
Yes. I'd like to talk with him.
So would I. I'll tell him a thing or two.
You'll keep your mouth shut while he's here. Bébert, thanks to you, we of the police have solved a very baffling case.
What case?
The one that we were just speaking of.
Then the old lady was killed.
Yes, but you didn't do it.
How do you know I didn't?
Your fingerprints don't tally with those of the killer. Besides, the old lady wasn't cooking meat and potatoes. It was an omelet.
Then you tricked me into giving away Voron, eh?
I'm sorry, Bébert. It was the only way. Come in.
Yes, Roger Voron.
Bring him in.
Yes, sir.
Sit down, Voron.
Yes, sir.
You'll excuse me a moment while I look in the files for your fingerprint card. You two men may talk.
I've nothing to say to him.
What's the matter, Bébert? What did the prison governor send for me for?
You'll find out soon enough.
Is it important?
Yeah, to you, yeah.
Well, then, here we are. Now let's look these over. This is your fingerprint card, Voron?
Yes, sir.
Bébert had just come to me with a confession of murder. The murder of an old woman who was stabbed to death just off the Bois de Boulogne.
Yes, sir, but how does this concern me?
Bébert didn't do it. But I have a feeling that you did.
I, Governor? Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't you? Then how did your fingerprints get on the knife with which he was killed? Look, you can see for yourself.
I didn't do it. I wasn't in Paris at the time.
What time?
Why, when the murder was committed.
Oh, don't waste your breath, Voron. Bébert has told me all about it.
You low, sneaking police spy, you. You come into my cell and beg and plead with me to save you from L'Île de Ré, and then you tell the prison governor everything.
Well, why didn't you tell me the old woman was cooking an omelet?
Well, what difference did that make?
All the difference in the world, Voron. We knew what the old lady was cooking, and we knew that the murderer knew. But Bébert didn't know.
And an omelet will cost me my head?
Yes, Voron. An omelet.
An omelet.
4 months later, Roger Voron was executed in the same prison where he had made his first confession. Once more, the police had won.
have just heard another true murder mystery brought to you by the police reporter. Listen in to the dramatization of our next unusual happening taken from police records. This is a radio release production.
From 1935, the police reporter on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Crime drama was pretty prevalent in old-time radio, primarily because you had source material. You know, you could write a fictionalized version of a crime of some kind, and you didn't have to pay any royalties on it, instead of having to pay royalties for some book or pay somebody some, it was a cheap way to do it. It really was. But there was a lot of crime drama in old-time radio. We tend to think that Dragnet was the innovator. No, it goes all the way back to Calling All Cars and the Police Reporter. You hear that here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Thank this station, support their advertisers. Their kindness and courtesy allow us to bring these shows to you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite station. Now, if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available on demand through our podcasts, and you can stream them at classicradio.stream or through almost any podcast app. I've got a list of them there at our website, classicradio.stream. You can also find our social media links, and you can learn how to build a classic radio collection of your own. And if you're so inclined, you can buy me a coffee. That Buy Me a Coffee money helps us acquire additional classic radio collections and helps us maintain our distribution channels. classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox right here on your favorite radio station.